Hey guys, and welcome back to the Franchise Tag Podcast Season 3, Episode 2. We've made it through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season now. We know a little bit more than we did in week 1, or after week 1. And make sure to check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Gotta always plug that at the start. Literally anywhere that podcasts are hosted, we are at, believe me. And the links for that will be in the description down below. So if you want to go ahead and check those out, the other link that will be down in the description down below is going to be our pick'ems. You right now can beat Elijah, the franchise tag smarter host.
Yeah, probably.
You can beat him at pick'ems.
Yeah, I'm even. I'm 16-16 on the year, but that was a rough week for me. I think it was like 6 correct, 10 incorrect. If it was any better than that, it certainly didn't feel like it. Just double checking, it was 7 and 9. So yeah. Not my finest, but I did go through the backlog a little bit there, and it turns out I just shoot, right? So I've gotten 9 of my 16 incorrects are me taking like absolute underdogs in terms of like percentage of people on ESPN picking these people. And then on the flip side, you have gotten 3 of those incorrect.
Yeah.
So
I don't.
You're taking your shots more particularly, and I'm sending them up.
Yeah, you took
I'm a
Dolphins
3-point
over
shooter by
Patriots.
volume.
Yeah, you took Dolphins over Patriots. I saw that. I felt disrespected personally, actually. I felt like that was a personal attack against me, not just.
And then you saw the score at halftime, and you were scared.
Oh, I was not scared at all. I trusted in Tua more than anybody to choke the game away. Like, if there was one quarterback where I was like, there's no chance that he comes back, it's Tua. But we'll get into that. I'm sure. We should discuss some of these recaps for this past week, and then we'll talk about our segment for this week, which will be, spoiler alert, washed or not, where we discuss certain players and whether or not we think they're washed. But let's get into Thursday Night Football, Commanders and Packers, where we had a very interesting matchup. Week 1 expectations kind of bled into week 2 and showed us that the Commanders, not a super strong showing in week 1. They did beat the Giants, but it's the Giants. You kind of expect them to do better. And the Packers, very strong showing in week 1 against the Lions. They won there, and they come into, or the Commanders come to town, and Packers wipe the floor with them. Totally box them up, send them home.
Yeah, I think the first 2 weeks have really come to show, the Pack are definitely a strong home field advantage. Like, if the Lions went into Lambeau and they've got as difficult of a time communicating as an offensive line and getting any sense of footing throughout the whole game. And then the Commanders, another team made a deep playoff run last season. Yeah, they have a different team, and it's always a different team every game, even. From this week to the next, you're going to have different injuries. But again, it was like, it's difficult to find footing when you're playing in Lambeau. And I think a big part of that is Micah, really spicing up the entire team, and how we said, they usually operate as like this. Every position is like, all right, we got a rotation going there. And they've really gotten like a stud in Micah Parsons to make everybody else much better on that defensive line.
Yeah, and Micah's familiar with Jaden Daniels from his 2 games against him last year, obviously. But I mean, we knew Micah was great, and even on a snap count, he's still making a huge impact for the Packers. And I think it's going to shape up to be more than worth the trade that they offered up. I know there was some speculation from not people with sense, but from Cowboys fans, there was some speculation of, well, get off the requirement to pay Micah and get Kenny Clark, who's also a contributor on the D-line, and get some picks. But those picks are not going to be high enough to get a Micah Parsons level player. So I think it's an easy win for the Packers in that trade. Even just 2 weeks in, I think that's pretty easy to see. But
impact is there immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can transition actually into the Packers week 1 opponent in week 2, the Lions. Dropped a 50 burger on the Bears on former offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, and I will let you
Ben
take
Johnson's homecoming, dude.
Yeah, I'll let you take the floor complete with
we
this
spoiled his homecoming. I mean, this was like, for the Bears side of things, this was pretty similar to what we saw week 1 with the Bears. Like, they get a good rhythm going off rip with Caleb again completing majority of his passes. I think he had like one incompletion or on the first drive, and really getting the ball rolling. But as soon as the script runs out, it really does spell like game over, and just mistakes from Caleb, like a lot of just thrown up balls that when you're throwing them up to the safeties and the defensive backs that we have, they're eventually one's going to be housed, and we got a good old Kirby Joseph one out of there. But with like the Lions half of things, because we saw them get no footing at all, and then they only had footing. They had the home field advantage, and they were able to just at will run the ball, pass the ball. Everything looked way better than it did in the first week. I mean, we had 3 touchdowns for Amon-Ra. Jahmyr Gibbs was very productive, despite not being very productive in that first week. And yeah, everything just meshed together for the Lions the whole game. Meanwhile, the Bears need to figure out how to mesh things together for more than the first 2 drives of the game.
Yeah, I think that with time it could happen for the Bears, but we're starting to see a little bit of doubt creep in. Where last year, it was Caleb Williams as a rookie. We're expecting some rough patches, and coaching staff isn't great, so we're expecting a little bit of a not amazing stats and not amazing performances right away. But now we're getting into year 2. We've got him a good play caller. We've got, I say we, I mean the Bears. I am not a Bears fan. I don't know why I'm saying we. But anyways, they've got everything set up for him to succeed. They drafted Luther Burden. They had DJ Moore. They drafted Rome Odunze 9th overall last year. Like this team is built for a quarterback to succeed. The only thing it's really missing is a quality running back, but I don't think that is what's holding Caleb Williams back. I don't know if it's the, off-script play calling after you've done your planned plays. I don't know if it's his inability to successfully improvise when he needs to, but whatever it is, it's got to get figured out, and the Bears fans will be looking for answers much sooner than give us a few more weeks. They want them now, and they're valid for that, for sitting through hell for the past however many years as a Bears fan. I think they're justified in their complaints.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at their team on paper, everything should be working better than it is. I mean, you have DJ Moore, who hasn't really felt like he's gotten going, and it felt like last season, and since he's been a Bear, he's been a big impact player. You get the ball in his hands, and he's going to break a tackle, turn that hitch into a 15-yard gain, and they're giving him targets, but it's just different, and it's just not the same usage he had last year, and it feels like it's leaning heavily into Rome Odunze, which kudos to Rome Odunze, he's doing great, but you kind of want everyone to do great, and it seems like they're funneling everything to Rome because Rome's the one beating all the coverage, getting most wide open, and there's not much scheming going on to involve everyone. Whereas when Ben was with the Lions, it was okay. We've got all of these guys that can get the ball; they're all going to, and it's definitely difficult doing all of that with the lack of a run game on the run talent, we'll say, because Ben knows how to make a run game, but it's not exactly the 2-headed beast he had in Detroit.
Yeah. We can move off of the Lions game. Beautiful performance by the Lions there, but we'll move on to a quick mention of the Bills and Jets. Apologies for putting the Bills on upset watch. Foolish me. Should have realized that the Bills would never fall to a lowly opponent such as the Jets. I will say it looked on the stat sheet as though Josh Allen was subdued. He was not. He broke his nose, but he was not subdued. He was just merely not needed by the Bills to crush the Jets. So they didn't use him because they didn't need to. So I don't think he had a single touchdown. I think it was all rushing touchdowns on the day, but they dropped 30. Their defense held the Jets offense to 10. Justin Fields, man, I believed in him for a week. He gave me 1 week of hope, but unfortunately that hope is all but dashed now. He went back to his old problems of locking in on the first read. If it's not open, take a sack or run with it and get hit. And he just did not look like the same improved quarterback that I saw in week 1. And it opens up questions. It opens up the door for questions about, is the Steelers defense that bad? Like, that's a genuine thing we can talk about. And with the Seahawks performance against the Steelers this week being pretty damn good, Kenneth Walker just gashed them several times. Like, this is something that maybe the Steelers defense is genuinely just horrifically underwhelming this year. Last year they were pretty good. They've always historically had a pretty good defense. But I think this year we might see them continue to struggle, because if they were able to let Justin Fields do what he just did to them, and then Justin Fields turns around and looks like maybe a bottom 5 quarterback in the league in week 2, it really raises those questions, and I'm sure Steelers fans are none too happy about those questions being raised. Well, Elijah's checking out what's going on with the dog. I implore you to go click all those links in the description. If you skip past our intro, we do have our podcast on multiple audio platforms. There's Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those, as well as some other ones that you may use. Basically, if there's a platform that hosts podcasts, we're on it. The other link down there is going to be 1-2 hour pick'ems. Go join that and play against us. And Elijah's back. Yay!
Yeah, so this wasn't a game that I watched, but I know Justin Fields left the game early to be evaluated, and they put in Tyrod Taylor. How long was he in before they pulled the plug on that, or rather, before he got hurt? But, like, is it for sure, like, oh, he's not the quarterback, or was it just, like, pressure from the defense for consecutive drives?
Damn, I'm gonna be honest.
Was making him that scrambler.
I didn't notice that they had switched quarterbacks, I'm not gonna lie. Like, they both look the same. And that's not like they're both black quarterbacks. I'm saying they played just as scared as one another. And honestly, like, I was watching the game, but I was, busy doing other things as well. Got a life and stuff, so I was not fully attentive. So I didn't see Justin Fields come out, but he looked horrible when I was watching, and I knew it was him. And afterwards, I guess Tyrod looked a little better on the stat sheet than Fields, but realistically in game they did not perform any differently. They were both very, very poor on the day. So I guess I appreciate you alerting me to the fact that Justin Fields did not in fact play the whole game, but that just leans into the more reckless nature that he's gone back to, of just getting hit, taking hits, getting knocked out of the game, and that was something that's plagued him since college, honestly. So
yeah, I would just pull up the stat sheet, and I was like, okay, they both had 11 attempts, so Fields probably left the game, past halfway through, and wow, he didn't look good with that 1.1 QBR, which is the stat he has there. But yeah, we can move past that. We were ringing the bells, man. We were like, everything's gonna go right for Justin Fields finally. And now we've, pumping the brakes hard, like emergency brake. The train is screeching, and even Superman had to pull up from the front, put a hand on it.
I was thinking Spider-Man,
Yeah, we'll see where they go. Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man stopping the train. Yeah. Anyways, let's get into my favorite game of the week, the Chiefs loss.
Yeah, how much did you watch of that one?
None, because I don't watch Chiefs games.
Was your favorite? Okay.
But I did see the Eagles offensive line, and I say offensive line, not individual players, because the Eagles offensive line lined up offsides on the tush pushes. So I understand the complaint there. That is egregious and needs to be fixed. So I'm not gonna push back on that at all. I will say, happy the Chiefs lost in any capacity because of how they were winning games last season. But if it was any team but the Chiefs, I'd be calling for the refs' heads right now. Believe me.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. Because, I've been sick and tired of the tush push, and then it was up for, possible ban, and it was just shy of it. And, this is the kind of stuff that really makes it, really drives that I want it just gone. Because why on earth, if we're allowing a play, why are we not also forcing the play that we're allowing to be upheld to any of the rules that are laid out in front of us? Because we saw this last season even, where, all of these players, they're lined up off sides, but because it's a tush push play, that flag's not getting thrown. And even false starts in this game. We've also seen that in the past with them false starting on the tush push. And it's like, this is an unstoppable play at its base because it's really hard to stop from any team running it. But of course, this is the best team at running it because you have the strongest offensive line, and then you have Jalen Hurts, and then you also have Saquon Barkley and another guy pushing it. It's going to be really hard to stop that regardless. And then you add to that, here are these uncalled penalties that have consistently been a problem when officiating this play. I feel like at a point that needs to be addressed, and while I don't want them to just ban any play that is good, this is almost... I mean, it's been called a rugby play since it was inception. And it's just going to... We've seen it, like, what? Probably 100 times now. They've probably ran this play at least 100 times. They've ran it 6 times in this game. And it's just very much so the time has been committed to try to stop this play, and that has yielded no results. So how much longer do we leave it an unbanned play for the Eagles to keep calling 6 times a game? That's just something that it's unentertaining. And I've had that issue since the first time they went to the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs. It's unentertaining football.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now. The reason I'm not fully focused on the screen, I'm looking up to see if there was any statement by the refs as to why they weren't calling it offsides, because I feel like this is the first time that it's been exposed at the level that it has been, where it's just all over Twitter.
Yeah, broadcast. Yeah.
That it's like, this is where the ball is and the entire offensive line is lined up past it. But I'm not finding any explanations from the refs. And I think that this is the point where we have to genuinely think about not banning the play. I don't think any play should be banned, period, point blank, but making sure that it does follow the rules and making sure that no offensive lineman can ever line up offsides, or at least more clearly defining what is offsides for an offensive player. Because the center, obviously, his hand is on the ball. So is his hand supposed to be the furthest thing forward and his head cannot be over his hand, or that's offsides by the center? Or are we allowing the center to lean over the ball? And if that's the case, can the guard line up even with the center, or does he have to be a step back? Does he have to be in line with the ball? And I think that aspect of it is something that needs to be addressed much more than the banned play, because again, I will never be in favor of banning a play unless it is something like targeting, where you are not allowed to lead with the crown of your helmet, because that is dangerous in every facet, no matter what. But I think the tush push...
That's more so of a ban of an action than it is of a play.
Yeah.
And the tush push could be banned from, like, the action viewpoint of, like, obviously they're not going to ban this formation or this whatever. They're going to ban the pushing of another player, like, forward.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been, since the onset of the tush push, it also feels like it's been a thing just offense wide, where, like, if your running back is getting stood up, they're letting that go an extra second or two, so the offensive line comes and surges him an extra 5-6 yards.
And the reason
it feels like those things really happened at the same time.
I was going to say, the reason I don't want the action banned is because there is nothing I love more than seeing a running back get stood up, but fighting to stay on his feet, and then having either a receiver, a tight end, a tackle, or even sometimes the quarterback come over and, like, one man push him forward. And I don't want anything to be passed, any rules to be passed that would put that in jeopardy, because that is one of my favorite things to see when I'm watching, is to see, like, a running back get through contact in any way, including being assisted by a teammate. So I don't want that to be banned for the sake of that. But if there was some language put into place as, like, you're not allowed to push with either more than one player, or you're not allowed to push unless contact is made. So unless it's like a one-on-one contact, basically, or
like a stood up thing. Yeah.
Like say it like that instead of you're not allowed to push a player, period.
Prior to contact with
Yeah. Which again would be tough to police, because what if a hand comes over the line and touches the quarterback? Like, then is that contact? But I think it would be too subjective for the refs. I don't trust the refs to do.
That would be equally not officiated on the tush push.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't trust
that
the refs.
That would be something like silly they do on a normal play, where, as you say, like, the running back is stood up and someone comes and pushes him. They would find some way of, like, oh, this player pushed the running back forward despite there being no contact, penalty. And really, not officiate it for the means of it. But we can move past the tush push and get into a couple of the primetime games to end off the week. The Vikings. This was another duel of sophomore quarterbacks. Again, with JJ McCarthy, sophomore has an asterisk by it, but this was a team that balled out last year, and it was by the helm of Sam Darnold, and it feels like this is the same issue that is plaguing Caleb Williams. This verbiage is probably just too much for a quarterback to spit out when it's their first year running the system, because we've seen the issues with JJ McCarthy having minimal play clock to manage, seeing things post or pre-snap, and same thing with Caleb Williams. Like, there's penalties coming from this with delay of games, and there's also just inadvantageous positions for the quarterbacks to be in when they're lining up to get their first look at the defense and they only have 6 seconds until they have to snap the ball. Like, I think that's part of it, is getting play calls there, and that feels like it's been an issue for the Sean McVay tree. With Kevin O'Connell and with Sean McVay, they have long play calls. They got a lot in there, and so that play clock is always ticking down pretty low when you're getting near the snap. But of course, Matthew Stafford, a veteran, can run that a lot better than JJ McCarthy. And then on the flip side, the Falcons. Damn, Bijan's a beast.
Tyler Algier too, man. Like, shout out both of them. That's a two-headed monster. I would say
in
equal to the Lions. I would say that's an equal two-headed monster. I think probably David Montgomery's a little better than Tyler Algier. But like, in the grand scheme of things, I think that's as close to a two-headed monster to rival the Lions as we are going to get. And then Penix, man, like, he looks like the real deal. Like, that quarterback class. I mean, we're seeing some struggles out of JJ and out of Caleb, but the guys that had the most question marks, I feel like, are doing the best, which is Nix, Penix, and May. Like, JJ McCarthy was seen as this guy. He didn't have a lot of question marks, but his ceiling clearly wasn't as high as the rest of them. But his floor was seen to be higher. And then Caleb Williams obviously was this generational prospect that everybody expected to be great. I say Drake May more as like a, homer in me, but I think that he was also seen as...
Jaden Daniels had more questions coming in with the way he took hits in college.
Yeah, and his age.
But, May did have that extra time on the bench where he was able to adjust to NFL rhythm, we'll say.
And the thing is, you would expect JJ to be able to do that too, because he had the most time on the bench of any of them. So you would expect the mental aspect of the game to be the least of his struggles, and maybe it's the speed of the game that's bothering him, and maybe it's the physicality or the talent of the players he's going against, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like he's just rattled, and that's not something you want to see out of a quarterback who took a year off, obviously for injury, but it doesn't mean he was out of the facility. He was in the facility doing all the mental work he could, just not any of the physical work. And when it's the mental aspect of the game that's plaguing him, it really begs the question of, is he built for the league, and is he built to lead a team right now? Which, he's out this week, at least. And if Carson Wentz comes in and performs better, there will be calls for his head. There will be people who want Wentz to start.
It'll be loud.
And they won't be wrong.
The noise will be loud.
I don't think they would be wrong. I also don't think they would be wrong to try to get Kirk Cousins back from Atlanta, because he's not doing anything in Atlanta. If they want to slide Atlanta like a 5th-round pick and get Kirk Cousins back, they already got Thielen back. Just bring the band back together, man. Bring Kirk O'Chains back to his hometown. But that's like pipe dream level stuff, I feel like, where I think that would be like the ultimate last hurrah of Kirk Cousins. Get him back for this year.
That's your late year Madden franchise, little pipe dream you throw out there.
Exactly.
Shout out Matthew Stafford, but
yeah.
That's for a whole different thing.
that's an inside story. But we can move on to Monday Night Football, the doubleheader. The Bucks beat the Texans. Very close game there. If you would like to talk about that one, and then I've got some stuff to talk about with the Chargers as well.
Yeah, I was not going to stay up for that damn Chargers game. Not a shot. But with the Tampa Bay game, I was clued in right towards the end, because I'm watching, the Texans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's like a battle to see who's going to try to lose the hardest, because there's fumbles, there's interceptions, there's just arid throws. Everything's looking really rough for these offenses pretty much after the half. I feel like it was just punt, some, turnovers, some fumbles that are then recovered. But in the whole, we're seeing a great explosion of offense in the first start of the game, and then really muddied down the line until the fourth quarter. And at that point, I feel like it may have been obvious to more than I would have thought, but it definitely seems to me like the situation for the Buccaneers was, all right, let them score. Like, they let them get down into the red zone, and there was 3 minutes left in the game, and there wasn't going to be, okay, you call all your timeouts, they kick a field goal. If they kicked the field goal, they were going to be down by 1 point, I think, at that point in the game. But then you have the Buccaneers just kind of let it happen. The Texans get their easy score because of that punt that was blocked, recovered. And so you're in a real tough spot. You just want them to score as quickly as possible and have as much time for your offense to operate fully. And that's what they did. They let them score, and it wasn't as egregious as, I want to say, a different game this week had a definite, like, oh no, they let that happen. They let that guy walk through. Like, yeah, they were trying to tackle him, but at the point of the game, it was better that he scored a touchdown. And just what a drive from Baker Mayfield. He's pretty good at that shit. Like, that 2 minute, like, he's just got that ice in him. He scrambles when it's needed.
He doesn't have the what is it called? The
Browns anymore.
Well, that he doesn't have the the fuck, I forget what it's called, but it's like the whenever like you get, like, you freeze up mentally. He doesn't have that. He doesn't freeze up. His confidence means that, if they're in a game, he's going to throw him out of the game, maybe, but he's also not going to lose him. Like, he's not going to lose a game because he didn't throw the ball. If he's going to win a game, it's going to be because of him. And if the Bucs lose a game, it's going to be because of him. But I mean, he's just, he had a first down where Will Anderson tackled him and then was celebrating. I don't know if you were paying attention to that, but he was celebrating the sack because it was almost a sack. And then Baker looked at him and, like, did the first down and like, pointed, and Will Anderson was like, oh shit, because he thought he had stopped Baker on the scramble, but it was like a 3rd and 1 or something. So he fallen forward, got the first down, and then
he reached it forward for it. Yeah.
Baker's amazing at just being clutch, and it's because he's not bothered by the spotlight of the end of the game, or of that drive where we need to score here. He's not bothered by that. He doesn't get gimpy around then.
And then I just wanted to shout out, like, the management at the end of the game, to know it's better for us if the Texans score. And that was just
that's
great management at the end of the game there.
That's playing Madden, honestly. Like, if there's one thing that Madden actually teaches you about football, there's not much. I'll be honest. There's not much that it teaches you about actual football. But, like, knowing how much time is left and how much time you need to score a certain amount of times, or to have a certain amount of possessions, like timeout management, I feel like is something that Madden teaches you. Clock management, not so much, because the clock is weird in Madden, but timeout management and knowing when to let somebody score and knowing when to not score yourself is something that if you play franchise mode, or if you play dynasty mode in college football, it's the same thing, where you just kind of inherently know that. And when I'm watching football with somebody who doesn't play Madden, it's, like, very apparent to me, because I'm just like, oh, let him score. And they're like, why would you ever let somebody score? Why would you ever let a player score? Like, why would you do that? That's so dumb. Like, why would you not try your best to not let them score touchdowns? Like, touchdowns are worth more than field goals, so stop them for a field goal. And I just don't have.
It's definitely like if you play Madden and you don't know it, you will be taught it very quickly through losses piling up, because you cannot manage it. And when the pressure's on, like, when you really want to win that game, you're in the playoffs and you got to manage your time right. Like, That's the exact mindset that every coach is in every single game, because every single game is basically a playoff game in the NFL. And you're just sat there, you just got to hit the timeout button, but they're standing there and they're like, is it now? Do I do it now? Do I hold it? Yeah. Like, late in the game with the Bucks, they held a timeout. They let clock run. They ran a hurry up play and got out of bounds, chewed up a lot of clock, but it meant that they still had 2 timeouts, and that was beneficial to them at that point.
Yeah. But anyways, enough Madden talk. That was just my little 2 cents on video games helping a little bit. Alrighty, guys, we are going to transition on into this segment of Washed or Not. So I'm going to intro it like a regular YouTube video, just for those YouTube folks that like to just tune into the segments, which if you do, we love you too. Anyways, in 3, 2, 1. Is your favorite player washed? Yes, they are. But we are here, and we're going to tell you some of the players that we think are washed by this point in their careers, in the season, whatever it may be. I've got a few players, Elijah's got a few players, and we're going to run them through them and debate lightly about whether or not these players are washed. I have 4 written down. I know you have like 6 or 7, and we'll just pick the best from those. If there's any overlapping, then we'll go from there. But I would like to kick things off with a very obvious one, if you will, and talk about the one and only Aaron Rodgers, and talk about...
Yep, the definition of washed, right? Like, past few seasons, that's the guy that came to mind when we had brought this up in conversation. Like, the word washed and Aaron Rodgers, like, they're basically an anagram.
Like, it's basically... Drew Brees towards the end of his career is not in the same way, but is Aaron Rodgers, where it's like, we're watching him. We know he's done. We know he's checked out. We know he's not able to keep up with what he needs to, but he's a great player. The difference is that Drew Brees did not take perks and play football, and Drew Brees did not abandon his team. And Drew Brees stayed loyal to his team until the end, to a fault. It actually ruined the Saints, but I'll talk about that some other time. But the thing that I want to talk about with Aaron Rodgers, week 1, he looked on the stat sheet insane. He looked great. He had the 4 touchdowns, no picks. He looked like himself. This week was what the tape in week 1 showed, but on the stat sheet this time. This week on the stat sheet, he went 18 of 33 for 200 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. I don't know the last time he threw 2 interceptions in a game. He's been the epitome of efficiency throughout his career. He's always had those insane touchdown to interception ratios, but now we're not seeing that anymore. And in week 1, I did not see him making quality plays. I did not see him making smart plays. I did not see him standing tall in the pocket with any sort of ability to withstand pressure. Anytime pressure was there, it was a throwaway or a sack, and it felt like the only times that he could throw it was when there was a wide open pocket. And it just so happened the Jets defense wasn't able to cause as much havoc as the Seahawks. That's at least what I'm assuming was the difference between weeks 1 and 2. But
yeah, between the 2.
For me, it's an easy yes in the circumstance that he is not able to execute the duties that a professional football play caller and quarterback should be able to execute.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because he's been washed for a few years. Like, he obviously hasn't been at his peak MVP performance since his last MVP. As soon after that, with the departure from Green Bay, the immediate Achilles tear, last season with the Jets, it's been a mess for him. And the thing at the front of my mind is, like, I wonder how much longer he'll go, because he does have, career lowest interception percentage of any player ever. I wonder, is he going to take that and fall out of that career best with the later years of his career, because he's dead set on playing these extra years of his career? Like, I think he's washed, but it's, the famous line, a down year for him is a career year for other quarterbacks.
I don't know if that's applicable anymore.
As washed as he is, he's better than your average, very bridge quarterback. So I wonder if he is going to just keep being that above average bridge quarterback for a few more years, or if he's going to be like, yeah, this year's enough. Of course, small sample size, two games this season, but I would land on the washed side of things there.
The only reason I lean so more heavily washed is because I had the same exact complaints watching him last year on the Jets, and the fact that he has not improved. And last year I was like, well, he is 40 coming off an Achilles tear. So maybe that's part of why he's not able to move in the pocket as much and part of why he's so susceptible to pressure. But we're now a full 2 seasons removed from that, or 2 years removed from that, and we're still not seeing him able to move. So I think that was the point in his career where he should have called it quits. I think he should have gone out on the highs of what could have been, and that would have been such a different legacy than he's got now. With a bad year on the Jets,
for sure,
and what I'm assuming is going to be a bad year on the Steelers. But yeah, we can move on to the second if you've got a name you want to bring up.
I do have a name, and it's one right up your wheelhouse. Travis Kelce. Is Travis Kelce washed? I'm gonna let you get up on your soapbox and preach as much Kansas City hate as you want here and now. I'll lay out some of the facts for you, right? So he peaked in 2020, a great year for him, great year for the Chiefs offense.
Bad year for the rest of the world.
In that year,
can we get a shout out to 2020? Anyways,
with that season, he had 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. He did eclipse the 11 touchdowns with 12 in 2022. He did have a minor deficit on the yardage there. But that was a great prime stretch. He had so many years in a row, 1,000 yards every season for about 6 or 7. And then he just barely misses that 1,000-yard mark, 2023. Last season, it was a rough season for Travis Kelce with, a great tight end season, 823 yards. But when he's the main workhorse of that offense, and you're seeing those numbers dwindle as he's getting up in age, and then we see his play this past game, where he's been dropping balls for a little bit now. He's had the dropsies, and he's dropping them into defenders' hands as they're returning an interception a long ways. I think, it's lining up to him being washed, but now that I got the numbers out of the way, I'll let you preach your hatred.
Yeah, I'm not going to look at this through a Chiefs lens, because I feel bad when I look at stuff like this in a biased way. When I'm talking about the Chiefs and we're just normal podcast stuff, I don't mind ragging on them because I really don't like them. But if I'm doing like actual analytics stuff, I'll remove my bias as much as I can. I was not a Travis Kelce fan last season, obviously, but this year, I think throughout his career, he's never really leaned on the athletic aspect of his game. He's always leaned on the mental aspect of being able to find open spots in a defense. He's always been a reliable target. And those are his main 2 things, is I can get open no matter what, and I will catch the ball. And if you're a tight end, you got to do 4 things. Be athletic, block, get open, and catch the ball. I mean, other things for sure. But those are like 4 main things. He already wasn't doing 2 of those. He was not a great blocker, never was in his career. He was okay, but never amazing. Always more of a receiver, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. He was never a huge athlete. Again, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can still be great, as he proved, by just finding open spots and catching the ball and maybe getting upfield a little bit. But when you remove a third aspect of the tight end experience, if all you are able to do is find open spots, what do you add to the team? You're not a threat to catch the ball because you're dropping the passes all the time. You're not a threat after the catch because you're not athletic, you never were. And you're not a threat in the run game, so if people see you on the field, they're worried about the pass more than they are about the run. So I'm not saying that he's like now one of the bottom tight ends in the league. Like, he's still pretty good. Even him with the dropsies is better than most tight ends. But I do think that
a down year for him.
Shut up. I do think that we are at a point now where we can have a legitimate, unbiased conversation saying that he's washed, rather than my rant that I cut out last year where I said that he's not a top tight end in the NFL. So there's me exposing myself a little bit there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you really honed in on the fact that that third aspect is being dropped. We had him have his with his catch issues last season, and that was its own other thing. And I went and I found the numbers for that. So out of all 103 tight ends last season, he ranked 54th in catch percentage. All right, middle of the road. It's nothing, it's not great. It's not the Kelsey experience, but it's average. But so far this season, out of 57 eligible tight ends, he is 48th in catch percentage. Now, small sample size. We've got 2 games. How many tight ends are being targeted? And, what's the circumstances in which they're dropping it? But Travis Kelsey, seeing him at the bottom of any of these stats, no matter the sample size, would have in the past been like, oh man, he must have had a really bad week 1 game. But he hasn't had inexplicably bad games. He's had average games for what he's been doing the past couple of years. So when he's the workhorse of the offense and it is looking this rough and his prime was so great, at this point in time, unless he really turns it around, because it feels like he's coming out of the gates better than he did last season. However, he's still dropping passes. And so that leads me again into that leaning of the washed. Now, he comes around and he catches every single ball for the rest of the year. That's fantastic, and I will rescind that washed. But at the moment, this has been a pattern that's established, and it's not a great one.
The other thing that I will mention about that one aspect of his game, the finding open spots, is the Xavier Worthy play, where he ran into Xavier Worthy and dislocated his shoulder. It, to me at least, seemed like it was a rub route, which I'm not saying that it's a Chiefs thing that they're running a rub route. Obviously, Chiefs are cheaters or anything. I'm not saying that. Every team does it. I'm just saying that when you're running a rub route and you can't do it properly and it leads to injuring your teammate, that fourth aspect is starting to get a little shaky too. So it's like, all right, drop issues, sure, you can still be a middle of the road catch percentage tight end. And for tight ends, that's not great because by the end of the season, you've got a bunch of blocking tight ends that have targets and they don't have the best hands, period. So being a middle of the road catching tight end when that's your main thing is like not great. But either way, it's really starting to look like he's declining because it's piling on top as we move forward rather than, something that we're just seeing now is new. And he's all of a sudden he's coming off his highs. But I think that's enough Kelsey talk, I would say he's washed. You're saying he's getting towards washed. I think we can meet in the middle and say that he's
in the hamper right now. Yeah. He's next in queue and about to
somebody's grabbing him out of the hamper as we speak, and he's got to bite that hand if he wants to not be called washed. But we can move on to my second, a name that is not old, a name that is actually quite young, and that is Bryce Young.
It is quite young. It does, in fact, contain young in the name.
Yes. So when my criteria for this, my little notes here, from the late season stretch last year, where he had us believing that he might be great, or not great, but he might be better to now.
Franchise, at bare minimum.
Yeah.
And he could have been the future. From
what I have seen, it's not his fault, man. It's not his fault. But it is a lot of dropped passes. Xavier Legette is looking like one of the worst receivers in football, unfortunately. But I think my opinion on this, I wanted to discuss this because of how the end of last season went to how the beginning of this season is going for the Panthers. So I wanted to discuss it. But my stance on it is he's also in the hamper, but he's got some time because Jalen Coker needs to come back. Cokeheads unite. We need to get our boy back. And he needs to have some more solid targets.
Right in the nose.
Tet McMillan has to mesh more with the offense, and that's just going to come with time. And Legette needs to get off the field. So when all of that happens, then we can take a serious look on if it's his fault or not. Right now, I don't think he's doing enough to elevate, but I don't think it's fully his fault.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Bryce Young because I have that other name, Xavier Legette, on my list. Now, the caveat for my Legette being on the list was like, well, was he ever really that great to begin with? With a middle rookie year, but this year is like it's bad.
It's
and
bad.
So
Yeah,
when
worst in
a
the
guy,
league, legitimately worst in the league.
yes, point 2 yards per route run. He's got 4 receptions, 8 yards, and he's getting targets. He's got 15 targets on the year. And when you're looking at that, and it's just so abysmal that it's that effect. You have this guy who you were hoping to see improve heading into the year with more offensive weapons, and yet now the offensive weapons are not actually improving. Like Leggett is having his regression, whereas he could have had a way better and bigger year. No Thielen, so he could have gotten a bigger workload. Tet McMillan opposite him, and he's not falling into that role. So I feel, due to the fact that I have Leggett on my list, I can't say that Bryce Young is washed on your list.
So we
because I would lean heavily into Xavier Leggett. Like he's gotta focus in and actually improve on a season where he should be improving and not regress as heavily as he is. Meanwhile, Bryce Young has the regression happening around him, not so much due to his individual mistakes, decision making, and stats.
Yeah.
So that was a twofer. That was two birds, one stone.
I'll let you lead into another one, and we'll see if I've got one to match you with here, because I led into that one and then you were able to piggyback. So we'll let you take off with I guess it'll be 5th one.
Yeah. Man, there's one name that it'll be real quick. Yes, no. But I saw the numbers on him this year, and I was like, I gotta offer this up. Is AJ Brown?
No.
Is AJ Brown approaching being washed?
Hell no. It's the Eagles' offense.
Yeah, they've had a weird couple of games where they're not really producing as much as they usually do, and they're still winning these games because they're so handedly able to just run the clock and run the ball.
Yeah,
manage possessions. You don't need AJ Brown to get these huge targets, deep shots.
If you can keep him from having a heavy workload until you need him to later in the season into the playoffs, if you're winning games, even if it's by 5 points a game, if you're winning by 1 score every game, but you're winning, why would you risk injury or tire or
fatigue?
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you. On some of your best players. Why would you give Saquon the ball 30 times a game if you don't need to? Why would you pass the ball to AJ and Devontae Smith, 10 times each every game if you don't need to? And I think ultimately that's where I stand is I hope he continues to have a down year for the Eagles' sake, because if that's the case, if they're still winning and he's not producing as much, come playoff time, he's going to get the ball 10 times a game and he's going to explode 200 yards in the playoffs, and that's going to be the reason they win. But it's going to be something that teams aren't preparing for because he hasn't been part of the game plan all year. Obviously, I'm speaking in hyperbole. We're in week 2. I expect to see him enter the game plan a little bit more as we go. But yeah, I think that he's just not needed at the moment more than he is washed.
Yeah. And I just wanted to tee up at least one easy not washed in this conversation where we have been leaning heavily onto that washed. And then who do you got?
I've got one more that I really want to talk about, and then we can see if we want to do any more after that. I've got the Dolphins, but like everywhere. Like
everything.
I'm talking not just team, like not just Dolphins O-line, not just Tua, not just Tyreek, not just the defense, but coaching wise. Mike McDaniel, hang him up, buddy. Like, you're not able to orchestrate this offense. You're getting yards because you're dumping the ball off to Devon Achane. You know who could draw up plays to dump off the ball to Devon Achane? This guy. I could do it. Swing pass to Achane, get a couple receivers out there blocking. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, you're on the bench. Y'all can't block as well as some of these bigger receivers do. Give me Mac Hollins. Give me some of these bigger, bulkier receivers. Give me Gabe Davis. They're deep threats, you know. They can get down the field. They can catch the ball deep, but they're also bigger than Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, and they can block. So if we're gonna just go full send, offense is Devon Achane now. We're passing him the ball 20 times a game, and we're handing the ball off to him 10 times a game, and he is our offense. Why not fully build it around him? But that's a complete tangent that I actually didn't have anything written down for. I just kind of felt a spark and went with it. So, input, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an egregious downturn for them. And it's like, how much of it can be pure offense? How much of it can be pure defense? I would say it's kind of heavily on the defense for not being able to, stop a damn thing. But then you also have the flip side of the offense not really being able to get anything going and then being forced into these situations because now their defense isn't that good. I think as a whole, like, this is an enigma because they have obviously the brains. We've seen the things McDaniel can do, and Tua has always been like the guy. He completes the pass and he gets it to the playmakers, and that's the way the offense runs. But it's not running as well. He's not getting it to them as well. The offensive line isn't holding up as well. I'd agree. The Dolphins are washed right now. Like, it's about 6 more games of this away from firings occurring and just full regime rebuild. Shift. Yeah. Because it's been years of Tua. We've seen Tua. We know what Tua is. Despite him missing time with injury, we're still able to know what Tua is. And at the moment, he needs a lot of stuff around him. And if one aspect of the things around him isn't good and it's the offensive line, then therefore the things you have around him don't matter.
Yeah.
You need to put someone in there that can, make the most of a situation, recognize pressure and avoid it, while also, adding a little bit younger talent because, Tyreek Hill is going to be joining that washed category possibly.
Yeah.
If no one can get him the ball. But to end things off, you went a full team. You went large scale there. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do something similar. Will we see the Bengals rushing attack reach a level that it can post Joe Mixon? Is the rushing attack of the Bengals washed?
Yeah, my take on this, I've got two sides to the take. Early season Bengals always suck. Documented fact. But now that Joe Burrow's out, it begs the question, like, will that affect things too much? Jake Browning came in, won the game. He's pretty good backup. But the second part, I never believed in Chase Brown. I never did. I didn't vocally say it. Thank goodness.
You didn't fall into that either. Thank God.
No, I
did not either. But everyone was on that.
I could not see the hype. I couldn't get it. Like, is he part of a high-scoring offense that needs points scored? Yes. But are there 3 receivers that beg for touches? I guess not 3 anymore. But are there 2 receivers who beg for touches way more than Chase Brown? Yes, absolutely. He does not have the Joe Mixon level talent. He does not have... I don't even think he has starting running back talent. I'm not going to lie. Like, maybe it's a bit harsh, but I don't think he's a quality running back in the league. And I could not stand hearing everybody be like, oh, Chase Brown's the next big thing at running back, and draft him in fantasy. He's going to be great. Like, drafting a running back that is on a high-scoring offense is not a winning formula unless the running back is part of the reason that offense is high-scoring, and he's not.
Yeah. It's a heavy passing offense. You're coming into a year after the Bengals had a really rough defensive performance last season. What happens when you're having your defense not do great? Well, you often tend to pass the ball because you're down in the game and, clock's running. You can't run the ball because you don't want to eat up the clock. Why at all does that feed into a Chase Brown narrative that he's going to be, being so productive? I don't understand. Now, as you stated, the group isn't as talented without Joe Mixon since his departure, and the offensive line isn't that good. You're gonna slam that washed on your hardcore, right?
Yeah.
Right into the hamper? Yeah. Okay. Hook shot into the hamper, or
they're
straight
going
into the washing
dryer.
machine.
Actually,
yeah,
they're going into the dryer now. Like, they're beyond washed. But that,
and they've got that little bit of mildew like that.
Yeah, they got left in the washing machine for too long after the cycle was over.
A little too long.
Yeah. Anyways, that I believe will wrap up this short segment. Not that short, but this segment video. Let us know if you disagree with us. If you're a Chase Brown believer, let us know why. I genuinely haven't heard a take of why other than the fact that he's on the Bengals. So if you've got some advanced analytics or anything to back it up, please drop it in the comments below. But other than that, check out the full podcast dropping tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. We thank you for supporting the individual little segments, and we hope that you stick around and support the podcast. So we'll get right back into the end of this podcast, wrapping it up, and let's get back into things.
Yeah, heading into Pick'ems, my arch nemesis. We don't go over our pick'ems. New thing this year. We don't go through them in the podcast itself, but we do post them into our ESPN pick'em, and the link for that will be in the description below. So if you want to go ahead and submit your entries alongside ours, go head to head with us on the week, seeing who's going to be stacking up better. Likely with how I've been doing, likely better than me. But a lot of year left. And I won't be sending up these Hail Mary of picks quite as often going forward. Definitely not going with the Dolphins in this Thursday night matchup.
Smart man right there. You've got some highlighted week 3 games here. The Chiefs and Giants is one that I think is interesting that you wanted to discuss. So I'll let you take the floor. Obviously, I don't really have much to say, but let's get into it.
Yeah. First things first, why is this a Sunday night football game, but
True.
like the Super Bowl matchup wasn't the rematch? Regardless, 2 0-2 teams, and I mean, this is a Chiefs that hasn't gone 0-2 while Mahomes has been a starter. And then we've got the Giants who legitimately, despite that week 1 dud that they put up against the Commanders, like this is a game that they're playing at home. And they just lit things up against the Cowboys. Like, Russ was fully dialed into his deep shot. This is like, I'm not going to say a trap game. They're both 0-2. But, like, this is tighter of a matchup than I'm comfortable with. As, like, what are we seeing from Kelsey? What are we going to... Is Worthy going to be back in? Will he get decked again? There's so many question marks in this game, and it's like... I don't like to see it as 2 0-2 teams on Sunday Night Football. One of them is going to walk out with a win. I worry which one it might be.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think would happen if it's the Giants and if the Chiefs start off 0-3. Do you think we start looking at them as more of a fringe playoff team rather than a lock, or is that outlandish to say as long as Mahomes is there?
With Mahomes there, he's the thing keeping them afloat right now. Like, he's the leading rusher for the team.
Afloat. They're 0-2.
Yeah. He's the one keeping them competitive.
Right.
Like, there's a reason it was a close game. And, I don't know what the Chiefs' schedule is. I don't know how difficult their coming up games are. But, I'm pretty sure they've got the Ravens in there.
It's a tough one.
Oh no. Okay, so it goes Giants, Ravens, Jags.
Easy.
That's a nice one. Lions.
Awesome.
And then Raiders, and then Commanders, and then Bills. So
yeah,
that's some tough sledding.
They might be 2-3 win team by the midseason mark. That's tough.
And then you're getting, Rashee Rice back and really hoping to have the offense gel past where they've been, but
maybe
right now it's going to be
honestly.
It's going to be Mahomes trying his best for a good few weeks here. Yeah. And he might pull out the magic he needs in those really big televised games like primetime, but we'll see. Yeah. Heading into the next one I had highlighted here, we have a nice little duel of the backups with the injury being announced for J.J. McCarthy. We've got the Bengals and the Vikings going head to head, and this is really a highlight due to the McCarthy one. Like, yeah, we don't know what the Bengals will do. I mean, as you stated, they look rough to start, but right now they're 2-0. So, like, this is probably their best start while looking as rough as they have.
Yeah, true.
But now they've got a backup, and then the noise, as we mentioned earlier. If Wentz performs at least, mid, it's going to get a little bit loud.
Yeah, I'll say it. I picked the Vikings in this one. The KOC system favors quarterbacks who've been around and who know what they're doing in an offense, and that's just not JJ McCarthy. And I think that Wentz could look very good in the system. I mean, I'm not gonna act like Wentz is not a good quarterback. Like, he's washed now, sure, but when he was on the Eagles, when he was drafted there, before his injury, he was like leading them to the Super Bowl. Like, that, he took that team to a Super Bowl. Like, that's not outside of the realm of possibility of him actually leading the Vikings the rest of the season and being good. I think it would suck if he was good, because that would literally mean that they could just grab anybody off the street and they'd be better than their top 10 pick, JJ McCarthy. Like, that would be insane.
Yeah.
But it's not something that's out of the realm of possibility. And like I said, that's what I picked. I think that's going to happen. I think Wentz is going to lead the Vikings to victory.
Similar system, 49ers situation, quarterback, top 3, a lot of capital invested into that. And yet Brock Purdy's the one, not currently leading the team, but the name starter in the preseason.
Yeah.
And then this last one I've got highlighted, a little bit of a homer pick here, but it's a Monday Night Football game. Lights are on. It's Lions at Ravens. And boy, oh boy, the Lions do not fare well against the Ravens like ever. But I'm always going to be hopeful.
I think the Lions have always struggled against mobile quarterbacks, and that's why I've never been able to believe in them against the Bears when they had Fields, or the Ravens now with Lamar, or anybody else with a mobile quarterback. But I mean, we saw it last year in the playoffs. Jaden Daniels, like that. I mean, it's not going to act like Jaden.
It's a man-heavy scheme, so
yeah.
When you're running a heavy man and you got one man for the quarterback, maybe it's going to be tough sledding when that quarterback's Lamar Jackson, or Jaden Daniels, or Justin Fields, because he would always run for he ran for the record 221 or something like that. Yeah,
he did. But good game.
Well,
it's going to be a good game either way,
regardless.
So,
electric.
But I believe that is going to just about wrap us up here. So if you have enjoyed this full-length featured podcast, go ahead and drop a like and comment and subscribe down below, and stick around for next week. Drop your pick'ems or your thoughts on anything that we discussed today down in the comments. And do you have any words of wisdom, or wisdom for these people who live their lives by?
Go Lions.
Go Lions. And go Pack. Deuces.
Deuces.